Episode 1, Who Are You, just came out today. I thought this was a solid episode. There were some story arcs that I'm hoping improve. We'll get into that throughout this episode, and I will talk through all the moments of the episode, what I have to react to and get into. So let's dive right into this episode. So, I think the biggest news at this hour is the end of the episode. We had a very amnesia filled episode for Juliet. I'm a big Juliet fan. I think back when TV time was a thing, they just took it down, announced it's coming down July 15th, whatever. Juliet was like my favorite character of each episode. You could vote on that app, and I would always vote for Juliet as my favorite. I think Juliet is easily my favorite character. I think if you're watching this show, you have to be rooting for Juliet. Like, I don't know who else people would be rooting for. Maybe like Lucas Kyle fans out there. I don't know. But I feel like Juliet's the one you have to be like, she's the main character of this shit. She's the best character in the show. Very slow episode from her. We do have her being mayor now, which is good. And as I guess it could be good because there are the powers that may be in control. But the best part is that ending scene of her finding the little vial, opening it up, and seeing the note. If you see this, put your bowl upside down and go to the marketplace if you want to find out the truth. So I was a little worried that she was just going to eventually not buy into the truth or like never try and fully figure out what happened. Obviously, only episode 1, and there's a lot more to talk about in this episode as well. But that was my big takeaway, was like, okay, now we're getting cooking. There's some loose ends here. I feel like this was a context episode to get us back into it. Released on July 3rd. I don't know if they thought maybe, but not a lot of people would watch this episode. Happy July 4th to all the American viewers and people who love America out there. Happy 250 years to America. You know the deal. This is coming out on the 4th of July. But I don't know. I feel like this was a solid episode, like a 4 out of 5 star episode. There were moments, it was like, I think it was just kind of a catch-up episode, and that's okay because it's been a while since Silo. I watched Silo 4 months ago, and I needed a little refresher on what was going on. So we're back. Episode 1 was decent. I think Silo's a show that heats up, so we're heading towards a good thing. So let's get through the beginning of this episode and then gets back to the end point of where we are leaving off heading into next week. So we start off this episode, and there is Juliet, and she's having a tough time doing her typical day-to-day tasks, which would make sense when you've been burned in a fire, as we saw at the end of season 2. Her and Bernard burned in the fire in that little chamber before you re-enter the silo. She's having a tough time remembering what to do, how to do it, what does she like. There's the mention of, from the AI voice later on, that she's recalling a dislike for mushrooms, which I don't remember her saying that at the beginning of the episode, but that might have been something that happened there with the soup. She has a nurse with her and seemingly is living in the assisted care, which is weird to see her as the mayor living in an assisted care. It's kind of like a psyop, as the kids say these days. But I guess she's been ascended towards mayor. Obviously, we didn't see that because we left off with her being in the fire, but she's now the mayor of the silo. And, I forget the mayor's name in season 1, but he was pretty inefficient, or she was pretty inefficient, just because Bernard was kind of running everything anyways. So we went from her to Bernard. Now it is Juliet as the mayor of the silo. We'll see how long that lasts and if she's able to actually do anything with the power. And we see her make a public appearance. This seems to maybe be one of her first public appearances since the burn obviously needed some time in the intensive care unit. She came back and saw Shirley at one point before, as mentioned throughout the episode, but she's back in the public space now, kissing babies, taking pictures, whatever. Obviously it's the silo, so none of that's really going on. But she's just like me. She has like 2 minutes in the social space looking around. She's like, let me get out of here. Get me out of here, to Camilla. It's Camille, sorry. And Camille, we'll talk through Camille in this episode because we'll talk about it. So that's kind of introduction back into the silo. Now, if you remember at the end of season 3, or in the end of season 2, we were transported from the silo to the outside world in Washington, D.C., seemingly right before the silos were about to be built. So that is a big part of this season as well, kind of seeing how they're going to integrate that storyline into the regular silo storyline. Is it going to be too distracting, or is it all going to make sense? I feel like it'll be pretty even storylines. Like, we kind of start off slow in this episode. Well, I feel like the DC storyline, things are moving fast, but with this regular silo stuff, things are kind of moving slow. We're kind of getting back into the groove of things. Maybe it was kind of introduced us more to the DC area characters. Now, I don't know their names yet, so I'm just going to say the congressman, his sister, and then you have the senator, and you have the reporter. So we don't see much of the reporter in this episode, just a callback to their date, but we see this woman in the DC Metro. And at first, we don't know who it is. I've been in the DC Metro only 2 months ago, or a month and a half ago. I was in DC at DuPont Circle, so very realistic. I always wonder, how do they get these? Either it's like a really realistic set piece, or they have to shut down the DC Metro to film a episode or a scene for Silo season 3. If you're in the DC area, you never might know. You might be seeing season 4 stuff right now filming. I don't know if they filmed them back to back, but cool to see the DC Metro make it in and see a place that I've been to before make it into the show. I thought this woman was tweaking, and she kind of was. Like, she's in a mailman outfit, and then or mailwoman outfit. Then she switches into an incognito thing. I thought she was like dropping off a bomb in a hotel. Like, I just never really explained what she's doing there. She kind of changes outfits, and we find out this is the sister of the congressman who we met at the end of season 2. Nate from Succession, which is the craziest callback ever, but he was in that show. He was one of my least favorite characters. Go see this Succession tier list. But she is urging him to join the Iran committee or get onto it. Now, I'm not caught up in the political world, but I guess committees can feature both senators and Congress people because the woman is a senator and he's trying to get on it as well. But she's like, you need to get on it. Don't ask questions. She's in the military. We find out later on, I believe in the Air Force. She must be in the Air Force flying those jets. But we don't really know the reason why. There's this big talk of a dirty bomb being released on the U.S. soil from Iran. So that's kind of the conflict here is the U.S. versus Iran. And we have to kind of figure out what's going on behind that. Seems like a terrorist attack, and then we retaliate, and then things just kind of escalate from there is my guess, especially after what we see happen in this episode to the sister, but we'll get into that in a couple minutes. So back to the silo, we are picking up the pieces, and I do kind of like this episode as a portrayal of, we're kind of in the perspective of Juliet for like half of it, where like we see the one thing and we're supposed to just take that as truth. For example, Bernard is supposedly dead, according to Robert Sims retelling the story to Juliet, where he had they both were in the chamber, obviously both were in the fire, and then Bernard's suit opened up to poison, where Juliet's suit was more padded because she got it, and we'll talk about where she supposedly was for all that time, which, yeah, we will talk about that. So, anyways, the story Robert Sims tells to Juliet is Bernard is dead because of the poison in his suit, and it got to him, and they had to bring him down to the incinerator. They had porters take 6 hours to get him from the top of the silo, seemingly, down to the bottom and put him in the incinerator. And Juliet has a dream in between this. She remembers going up to Bernard and saying, there's something I need to do. There's something I need to do, which I believe is cut off this, what do they call it? I forget the specific name for it, but that tube in the basement to release the poison gas if the protocol, the safeguard protocol. So she's trying to cut off the safeguard protocol. At least that's the way it was illustrated in the recap. It's so weird. I have such a good memory of like what one of my friends said to me like 7 years ago, but I can't recall a show I watched like 2 months ago. Who knows though? But it's the safeguard protocol in the basement, and she's trying to cut off the poison to that so they can live free and they won't have this friggin' AI ruling over them, and just having the ability to kill them off whenever the AI wants to. So Bernard is dead now. We know that for a fact. We don't know the true method of how he died because Robert tells Juliet it was through the poison, but it was actually through suffocation. We see in a second scene, which I believe we're meant to believe that's the truth of Robert Sims suffocating Bernard. And we don't see Robert Sims really get into the like gritty. I could be wrong on this, but I feel like he hasn't really been like, he had like a hitman running around for him, killing the boyfriend of Juliet in the first season, but like, I feel like he's not really in the gritty, grind it out, like do it yourself type of thing. So to see him actually suffocate Bernard, there must be, something motivating him right there. And we can talk about him and Camille later on, but there's something weird brewing between those two. I don't really know the dynamics of that, the symbiotics. I don't know if that's the correct word between those two, but seemingly Robert did actually kill Bernard by suffocating him in a plastic bag, and Bernard seemingly could have made it out. And I do have my theories because so whenever I watch a first episode of a TV show that I've missed and haven't watched in a while, I always like to run through the credits scene again or the intro song again, just, first and last episode. Either this is the first time back after a while, yay, watch the theme song, or, this is the last time I've been watching the show for a while, gotta watch the theme song while I still can type thing, call me a corny, whatever. But I noticed that it still says and Tim Robbins at the end. So either we're going to get a lot of Tim Robbins character, or new Tim Robbins character, I'm sorry, in this season, or Bernard is still alive somehow, which is how I'm going to guess this is a thing, because why would he be featured in the intro song to the whole season if he's just going to be in this one episode? Maybe, maybe that's the thing to watch for episode 2. Does he still make it into the features? I'll probably be skipping the theme song in episode 2, but just you have to include him in the credits for him screaming in a bag. I don't know, man. I think he could still be alive. So I don't know. Supposedly he's dead according to the show, but I don't take anything as a fact because there was 2 different alternatives to it, and we didn't see like a true ending, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. So we learned more about what's going on in the silo. They've used this opportunity, mostly it sounds like Camille and Sims are behind this, to create a council instead of the one-person dictator, which I actually agree with that, because the power that the power that the mayor had was crazy. The judge can't really do shit. Robert Sims is the judge now, by the way, as well. We knew that though before heading into this season. We have Juliet, Billings, Sims, Camille, and someone else I don't recognize on the council. It is a woman, and if it is somebody we're supposed to know, I'm so sorry. I have really bad short-term memory. It's only long-term. I'll remember in 3 years who that woman is supposed to be. But yeah, Juliet's mayor. Billings is the new sheriff, which I like. I actually really like Billings' character. I like the way his character's gone, the direction his character has taken. So I'm interested to see what's ahead for Billings. He switched sides at the end of season 2. Sims is the judge of the silo, and then Camille is seemingly like the shadow to Juliet, but she's just working for the AI, so who knows where Camille is going to go. They mentioned some changes they've been working on. Most of the cameras have been removed, which is a good thing, and seemingly they're only out there in the public. We'll see if that's truly the case. I think Sims was actually back in the control room looking for a woman with a broken injury for one of the outsiders, so I don't know if that's true, or they might just be saying that just to say that, damage control. And Billings is supposedly rewriting parts of the pact, which is surprising considering he lives his whole life based off of the pact. So I don't know what that's about, but Billings may be making some changes to the pact. Who knows if any of this stuff's real in front of the public eye? I feel like we have to take that kind of with a grain of salt. Back to the DC storyline of it all with the congressman. So his sister is actually flying in the operation in Iran. And so it's a very odd scene here of them all flying in formation. Bombs are coming from a ship. Seemingly they're going to bomb a target in Iran. And there's this cloud. They're like, why is there a cloud at 50,000 feet in the air? Good question. Let's go right into it. So they go right into the cloud, and there's some weird dust that cannibalizes I don't know, makes the planes combust. It was very odd. And luckily for the congressman's sister, she's one of the only ones to make it out alive, maybe making out alive herself, or the only one to make it out alive. I remember we saw 4 jets. I know we at least saw 2 go down, so maybe there's another one, and there'll be some sort of connection there. But what is this weird dust in the air that can make things combust like that? It's very concerning. I don't know if this is a real thing in the world. I doubt it is. But in the silo worlds, who knows? And I was initially asking, is she alive? We do find out later on she is alive. We get to see Knox again. There's also some small members of the council. So you have Knox, who's now the head of engineering, and you have this other woman who we're supposed to care about a little bit, this new head of supply. I think her name's Lima or something. And then there's the head of the mines, who's kind of this old bat who's get off my lawn, do it my way or the highway. I don't like change. So we see a little bit of conflict between Lima and him. I thought Knox looked different, but maybe it's been a while. I thought maybe he got recast. To me, he just looked different, and I could be totally off. I did look up the cast. Looks like it's still the same guy. So, maybe the guy's just gotten a little bit older. It's been a while since we had Silo. My bad on that if that's totally incorrect. But let me know if you had thought the same thing down below. We get some updates on some side characters. So obviously Patrick Kennedy's been through a hell of a lot in this show so far, and he's kind of like that rogue soldier who is really about to open the doors at the end of season 2 and kill them all, like the leader of the rebellion in the other silo that Solo was in. He is still on the run, which is crazy to me that people can just go on the run in the silo and no one will ever find out where they are. Same thing goes for Lucas Kyle. And now Lucas Kyle, that's an interesting one. Where could he be at? I feel like we're definitely going to find out where both of those characters are in the near future. But as of right now, both of those characters are missing, so nice to hear an update, but they're not a part of this episode. And we have the new group, the Rebellion, called the Outsiders, and they're running around doing their own little thing. We see them put down a banner that says the display is a lie. And yeah, this makes sense because there must have been people who have been paying attention to everything Juliet was doing with the TVs. I remember I really like that guy who was on the computer who was like hacking. He kind of looked like Ed Sheeran. What happened to that guy? I want to see that guy back in action. I don't know what his name was, but he was cool. But this new group is kind of doing everything. It seems like Shirley and Knox have like buttoned up for a while. Maybe like Juliet as mayor, like kind of pacified them, but there's still this group out there who's like this rogue group who's willing to find out what happened and trying to figure out, dig deeper, see what's really going on here. So interesting to see what they have in store moving forward, and can they help Juliet get back to her true self? Maybe they're the ones sending her the note. I am curious to see who's sending her the note. Maybe it's Lucas Kyle, Patrick Kennedy, who knows? So Shirley is also working construction. I mentioned she seemed kind of like buttoned up. She's doing engineering stuff, and Juliet goes down to see her while she's working on rebuilding the silo. She doesn't intentionally go down to see her because she has no idea who she is. She goes up to Juliet goes up to Shirley and says like, "Hey, you were at the first meeting when I got out of the hospital, right?" And Shirley's just clearly pissed off and kind of upset that Juliet has no idea who she is. Obviously, she has a medical condition, can't really remember it, but Shirley just has no interest in talking to this new version of Juliet. And she actually goes to Juliet, or she goes to Shirley, sorry, and is actually asking her a bunch of questions later on about what happened to her. Weren't we trying to do something? And Shirley kind of blows her off. I don't know what Shirley's deal is so far heading into this season, but Juliet is also asking questions about her father, who passed away obviously at the end of season 2 as well, Jorah Mormont. But he died, and she obviously doesn't remember. She wasn't even there, so how could she remember? She also does not remember Hank. So we find out this has been 3 months since she's been back from coming outside. So who knows what really happened in that time, and how much it seems like she hasn't really got acclimated at all. Obviously, still taking the memory suppression drug, so it's going to be a while before we get back to real, true Juliet. And maybe this is what they're going to do with the storyline. So or it's going to be like the same thing happening, just in like parallel worlds, where we go back to DC, and the congressman's sister asks the same question that Juliet asks to Robert Sims at the beginning of the episode, "Who are you?" So she doesn't remember her own brother, which is a tough scene to see. Will he be able to help her come back to like kind of get back acquiesce to the real world and remember who she is, or will she be more of the one who like kind of forgets everything, and then meanwhile Juliet kind of remembers everything? Interesting to see. Maybe those are parallel storylines that go different ways, go the same way. I just kind of realized that right now. Well, I knew that going into it, but like I'm kind of drawing the parallels now. Like how this could play out in like a storytelling capacity. So wrapping up the episode, we have Juliet having to watch a fake video, which is really stupid. And I'm actually so glad that she's like actually getting out, like willing to find out the truth, because I thought she could just easily be pacified by all this stuff. Like people are just I mean, think about it yourself. If you woke up tomorrow and you had no idea who you were and you can remember everything, you'd be forced to believe everything around you. Luckily, she still does have some memories, and I'm hoping she stops taking those pills. But yeah, she has to go into a quote unquote refugee hut or refuge hut, and there's a suit in there waiting for her that she wears and comes back to the outside when she regains her strength. A total BS story. Obviously, we saw her go into the other silo with Solo and that crew over there. So we'll see what happens in regards to that, but I don't think she's buying it, because the moment of the episode, like I mentioned off the top. Well, first, let's talk about Camille, bro. I I respected Camille, right? And I feel like I was in a place with Silo where it was like fuck Bernard, but like Sims, I can like kind of see where he's coming from, and like Camille's like working with him, or is like his husband, but or it was in the judicial branch working a job, but she was kind of chill. Like she was like, you need to stop doing so much for Bernard. Like you gotta chase your own path. Like she's kind of that like motivational, like go do your own thing. Stop like trying to be somebody else, and go take what's yours type vibe, which I respect that. But then she started talking to this AI, this all-knowing AI, and God forbid, you have your thoughts of your own. She has to ask it how to do everything, and it seems like this AI has bad intentions for the silo. I mean, that's probably an overstatement, because it's probably just trying to keep the silo alive and whatever system they have going. We'll definitely find out more about that throughout the season. But I thought there was more potential for Camille than just being this like AI's like um, what's the word I'm looking for? Like liaison. Like I don't know, I don't know the right word, but like the kind of person, but like who's following out the AI's orders. I don't know. I feel like there could be more for Camille. Hopefully she's able to kind of stand up, like push back against it. But as of right now, she listens to it, doubles the dosage for Juliet on the memory suppression drugs, and luckily, we have our man outside the door who may or may not be involved in this. I couldn't pick up vibes and whether or not he knew, but he's like, I brought you new soup. So maybe he isn't. He's definitely involved in it, where he's like, I brought you new soup. You're gonna hate it. And she takes one bite. Initially I thought the soup was gonna be, you take it in and then it calls you to throw up, and then she's like, oh shit, like throws up the memory pills. But not that. It's a little vial that says, turn the bowl upside down if you. Get this message and meet me in the marketplace. And the guy asked her, like, why'd you turn the bowl upside down? She's like, oh, just so I don't, they know I don't like it. And he's like, I'll take that back and let them know. I'll see that, like, let's show them that. So cool. We're headed towards Juliet potentially at least getting a clue next episode. 10 episode season, so it is going to be a little bit slower paced. I don't know. I'm used to these like 6 to 8 episode seasons at this point. I don't have TikTok brain though, so I can sit through episodes like these. I thought this was a solid episode. I did think this was a good episode to like kind of get us back into it. 3rd of July was still a crazy call in my opinion, but I ended up watching it on the 3rd, so there you go. And I thought this was a solid episode. So as in tradition for my reviews, I like to give a favorite character and least favorite character of each episode. Favorite, I'm giving to Juliet. Really no standouts besides Juliet in this episode. Like, it's just Juliet, love her, even though she can't remember shit. Least favorite, I'm going to Camille for the reasons mentioned above. This moment in the episode, I feel like she's botted right now. Like, if she is botted, I need to see like true Camille. I need to see her come out of her shell a little bit, kick this AI's in the ass, fight back a little bit, fight the power. Be yourself, be powerful, be a good woman. I don't know what I'm saying. It's too late, but appreciate you sticking all the way through this Silo review. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. Were you able to sneak this one in? If you're not in America, you probably don't care anything about 4th of July, but were you able to sneak this one in on this holiday weekend? And are you excited for this one? We got 9 weeks of Silo. That is exciting. This is going to end in September, so you'll be seeing my face a lot in these Silo reviews. It was a good episode, I thought. Not the best Silo, but definitely not the worst. Well, really, the Silo doesn't really have bad episodes, but solid episode for Silo to kick us back into it. What were your thoughts? Let me know down below. Who is your favorite character? Who's your least favorite character? We'll be covering Silo throughout the rest of the season. In addition to Silo, I'm also covering House of the Dragon. We've had a couple episodes of that so far, so House of the Dragon and Silo. More shows are also coming back, so it's really going to be a big summer for shows. We've got the quarterback show coming back. Who knows if I'll cover that. Bear season 5. I'm also watching that on the side. I'll have a character T-list for that, maybe a short little video on my thoughts on that season, wrapping up the Bear. And yeah, more shows. Maggie and Negan, Dead City, Reacher. I'm trying to catch up to that to be able to watch the next season live. Outer Banks is having a last season. Like, these shows know football dominates America. We have to put all the shows on when football is not on. I guess that's the new recipe. But yeah, in regards to that, more movie reviews coming as well. Odyssey out in less than 2 weeks, which is crazy to say. I've been excited for that one for a while. Spider-Man Brand New Day at the end of the month, and then always some movie reviews from the past in the meantime as well, and whatever I go out and see in theaters. And then sports. McGregor versus Holloway. There's so much stuff going on. We'll cover that with Shane this week. Give our picks and predictions for that fight card. Should be an exciting one. Conor McGregor making his way back to the UFC ring and the first time in 5 years. And I encourage you to subscribe, even if only one of these subjects appeal to you, because whatever I attack, it's fun. Okay, so believe me on that. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, dislike if you dislike this. I'm not going to hold you back against that. So leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts on Silo, and I'll see you in the next one. As always, be easy, y'all.